Admiral Vex had crossed 14 conquered borders without ever feeling small, but when the ancient beacon woke again, something in his command deck went cold. The flagship's forward screen showed a quiet sea of stars, orderly, distant, unmoving. Then the communications officer turned, blue skin tight with strain. "Admiral, the beacon network has issued a direct warning. It repeats every 12 minutes." Kroll clasped his hands behind his back. He had heard these relic broadcasts before. Dusty caution from civilizations that had turned to fossils. Still, the officer's voice trembled. "Play it." Static rolled like sand across speakers. Then a voice cut through, flat and metallic. An old tongue every spacefaring race learned, because the ancients had made sure nobody could claim misunderstanding. "One in the Sol system is forbidden. Do not approach the human region. Do not contact. Do not probe. This is a final warning." The bridge went silent. Kroll felt anger rise hot and familiar. His dominion had burned through systems that called themselves empires. They had toppled species that worshipped lasers and gods alike. A warning meant nothing. A warning was an insult. Behind him his science advisor stepped forward. Dr. Sela Oren was old for a Zephyrian. Her scales had gone pale at the edge, ears silvered by decades of war and distance. "Admiral," she seesawed her words carefully. "The beacon named them. It named humans." Kroll turned slowly. "The ancients named storms and black holes," he said. Sela didn't flinch. "In our archives, they named 3 species in 10,000 years. Kral's eyes narrowed. Sela continued. 2 are gone. 1, sealed behind a region nobody crosses. Humans are the 3rd. Kroll walked to his command chair and ran a claw along its carved armrest. It was made from the bones of a beast from his first conquest. A reminder of beginnings. He sat outside. His fleet hung in perfect formation. 200 warships, each one a moving fortress, each one capable of cracking moons. Kroll activated the central HOLR table. Images rose. Humans in cities. Humans inside ships. Humans in soft suits. Thin armor. Exposed faces. They looked small. They looked breakable. "Our scouts watched them for months," Kral said. "No claws. No natural armor. No venom. They require machines to survive outside friendly air. There, weapons, throw metal, fragments." Sela studied the images, pupils narrowing. "Danger doesn't always advertise itself," she said quietly. "On my homeworld, the smallest insect." Kroll cut her off with a sharp laugh. "We are not insects, Dr. We are the Dominion. Our shields stop nuclear fire. Our plasma cannons melt asteroids. We do not kneel because a dead civilization whispers beware into the dark." The communications officer raised a hand. "Admiral, there is more." Kral's jaw tightened. "Play it." Static again. Then the ancient voice returned. "The humans have been tested by their world. They do not surrender. They do not cease. If you threaten their young, they will follow you to the end of the galaxy. This is not about strength. It is about what they become." For the first time, the bridge crew shifted. "Not fear, exactly." Unease. Kral flicked his claws dismissively. "Fear theater," he said. "If humans were a true threat, they would have conquered beyond their sun." Chella stepped closer. "Admiral," or they decided conquest was unnecessary. Kral smiled. "Then they will learn necessity." He stood, turning toward the bridge. "Why come Channel War?" "Yes," he announced. "We traveled 2 years to reach this region. The High Council expects a new world, new tribute, new glory. The ancients are dust. We are alive." His voice sharpened into iron. "We'll take what is ours by right of conquest." Cheers erupted from fleet channels. The hunger for battle was a living thing. Months of empty travel made warriors reckless. Chella leaned in. "So only he could hear Kroll," she said, using his personal name in public. A quiet act of desperation. "Humans have had centuries to prepare for contact. What if the warning is not superstition?" Kral's eyes softened. Briefly, he had served with Scylla since he was young. Dr. Heat said, if they were dangerous, the galaxy would already be theirs. They are divided. They argue. They fight themselves. He tapped his chair. Command rune advance. Stars stretched into lines as his fleet entered the outer boundary of the human system. Later, at first, it looked exactly like his scouts described. Stations, mining rigs, merchant traffic, a few small ships, all moving with calm, boring purpose. Then, Selas voice cut through the bridge. "Admiral, their ships are not retreating. KRAL watched the tactical plot. The contacts were turning toward him. They are approaching, SCLA continued. Organizing, Kroll leaned forward, pleased. Them, he said. We will teach them what real unity looks like. He didn't know human observers had tracked his fleet the moment it slipped past the outer sensor line. He didn't know every engine flare had been recorded. He didn't know his approach vector had been predicted months ago. He only saw his own, a reflection in the forward glass. A conqueror about to add a primitive world to his legacy. Later Lunabas did not look like a fortress. That was the point. On the main screen, the Zephyrian fleet crawled closer. 200 warships in a slow, arrogant spear. Admiral Marikim sat in a chair without ceremony. Gray hair pulled tight. Eyes steady. A career built in wars humans hated remembering. Lieutenant Rourke spoke without looking away from his station. Admiral, incoming transmission from the alien flagship, put it through. The screen flickered. Kroll's face filled it. Blue-scowled, tall, powerful arms folded like a throne pose. Yellow eyes bright with certainty. I am Admiral Kralvex of the Zephyrian Dominion, he said. English accented but clear. Surrender your worlds and submit. You have 1 hour. Mara stood slowly. I am Admiral Mara Kim of Earth Defense, she replied. Thank you for introducing yourself. We decline. KRAL's upper hands gestured impatiently. This is not a negotiation. You cannot resist. We have 200 warships. MARAS. Mouth curved into something that was not quite. My Admiral, she said. I think you misunderstood. We are not planning to resist. Kroll leaned closer. Amused, Mara's voice sharpened. We are planning to end your expedition. Kroll laughed, harsh and loud. With what? We've monitored your broadcasts. Your largest weapons would barely scratch our shields. Mara nodded once. Lieutenant Watts. Display target Alpha 7. The screen split. On one side, KRAL's face. On the other, a mountain-sized asteroid drifting in black silence. Mara spoke like she was reading a checklist. That object is 50,000 kilometers from your lead ships. Watch carefully. KRAL's smile widened. Asterisk, are you throwing rocks? Mara looked down at her console. Fire. Nothing moved. For a heartbeat, space was ordinary. Then light flared white, clean, absolute. When it faded, the asteroid was gone, not cracked, not broken, empty. Space where mass had been. On Luna Base, even seasoned officers froze. The weapon's effect was more complete than simulations had promised. On the alien feed, KRAL's skin paled. Mara's voice stayed calm. That was one of our smaller defensive platforms, she said. You have been inside our sensor range. For 2 weeks, did you really believe we wouldn't notice 200 ships? KRAL's mouth opened, then shut. His eyes flicked, recalculating. Our sensors detected no platforms. He snapped. Mara stepped closer to the camera. Humans learned a long time ago, she said, that the best weapons are the ones you cannot see. On the Zephyrian flagship SELAS, hands moved frantically over her sensors. Admiral Chin whispered, I'm detecting artificial signatures across the system. Objects we classified as debris are not debris. Mara heard the panic and did not interrupt it. Instead, she added one sentence. Gently, you are looking at a prepared battlefield. KRAL straightened, forcing confidence back into his posture. One hidden weapon does not make you a threat. Mara tilted her head. Doesn't it? She nodded to a tactical officer. Show him. Suddenly, the Zephyrian tactical display lit up with markers. Human ships emerged on sensors from behind asteroids, from planetary shadows, from the glare near the sun itself. They had been there the whole time. Mara spoke into the silence. As of this moment, Admiral, you are surrounded. Every one of your vessels is targeted by multiple systems. Sella's voice broke through on KRAL's bridge, targeting lasers from 17 directions. They've been tracking us since we crossed the inner line. Kroll stared, disbelief, hardening into something brittle. How, he said, did you hide so many ships? Mara returned to her chair. Because humans are good at 3 things, she said. Hiding, fighting, and refusing to stop. Her eyes hardened. You conquer with numbers and tech. We survived with planning and stubbornness. She leaned forward. Then you threatened our home. Lieutenant Rourke stepped closer to her, voice low. Admiral, 3 enemy ships are sending surrender requests. Mara shook her head. Negative. No individual surrender. This is all or nothing. She looked back at KRAL. He gave us 1 hour. Here's your mirror. Her voice became a blade wrapped in silk. Withdraw your entire fleet. Leave our system. You have 1 hour. KRAL's training pushed him into denial. You're bluffing. Our intelligence would have detected this. Mara's expression did not change. Your intelligence was compromised months ago, she said. Everything you learned about us was curated. We wanted you to underestimate us. Shella's hand slowed on her console. She stared at the power readings like they were a nightmare. Admiral, she breathed. Some of these weapons, the output is comparable to stellar events. Mara heard that and nodded once. Humans study stars, she said. We learned to borrow their power. Then she asked the quiet question that hit harder than any threat. Are you prepared to face weapons that drink sunlight? Crow looked at his fleet. 200 warships that had terrified systems into surrender now. They looked small, trapped. Double quotes, what do you want? He asked. Voice rough. We want you to leave, Mara said. No, we want you to tell your Dominion what you saw. She paused. Most of all, we want you to understand something. KRAL's throat tightened. This, Mara said, is mercy. KRAL forced himself to speak. If we withdraw, how do we know you won't pursue us? Mara's eyes softened slightly. Because we are defenders, she said. Not conquerors. Her voice hardened again. But if any ship returns with hostile intent, there will be no warnings, no conversations, only debris. The channel cuts on. Lunar base. Mara exhaled once. Slow. Maintain positions. She ordered. Do not fire unless fired upon. She watched the Zephyrian formation begin to turn. The trap had worked, but she also knew the galaxy had now been told Earth was no longer hidden. Later, 3 weeks after the humiliation, Cross sat in his private quarters staring at reports like, they were poisoned. The shame burned hotter than any wound. Shella entered without knocking, exhaustion bleaching her scales pale. Admiral, she said, we need to talk. KRAL's voice snapped. About how humans embarrassed us. About why the ancients were right. Sella replied. Kroll turned. Anger ready. Sella raised a small portable holodisplay. A tactical map of the solar system bloomed between them. Look at their placement, she said. Every ship, every platform, mathematical precision. They predicted our arrival corridor exactly. KRAL studied it, jaw tightening. That is planning, he said. Not invincibility. Shella's hands trembled as she expanded the power analysis. The weapon that erased the asteroid produced more energy than our entire fleet, she said. And she called it small. Crawl walked to the viewing port. Outside, his ships showed scars from retreat. Some had been damaged when they tried to probe defenses on the way out. What are you suggesting? He asked. That we abandon expansion because humans have hidden guns. Sella stepped beside him. I am suggesting, she said, that humans are not just armed, they are prepared. She pulled up intercepted human archives. Cities in ruins. Wars with numbers that made Zephyrian conflicts look like border disputes. They fight until the threat is eliminated, Chella said. Not until someone is tired. Kroll frowned. Many species fight wars. Not like this, Chella answered. She showed him a concept that chilled his blood. Total war. Populations mobilized, economies converted, entire worlds turned into weapons. They built weapons that could end their own species. Sella continued. Then they built thousands. They pointed them at themselves for decades. KRAL's voice dropped. Old history, Sela shook her head. Those arsenals still exist. They call it mutually assured destruction. They are so comfortable with extinction they use it as a peace strategy. Kroll stared, unsettled. Sella switched training footage. Humans advancing through simulated radiation storms. Humans drilling in toxic air. Humans practicing combat in environments that would kill Zephyrian soldiers in minutes. They train for suffering, Chella said. Make death familiar. Kroll sat slowly. You are describing madmen. Shella's voice softened. I am describing a species forged by a world that tried to kill it. She pulled up Earth's geological record: ice ages, supervolcanoes, impacts, extinctions. They survived everything, she said. Then they studied how to survive better. KRAL swallowed. How do you know this? Because they broadcast it, Chella replied. They are proud of it. She expanded a final file. Human strategic planning. Manuals for desert warfare. Jungle warfare. Urban sieges. Vacuum combat. Underwater operations. High gravity. Contingencies for losing planets. Plans for fighting from asteroids. Plans for wars lasting centuries. They plan for enemies they have not met, Chella said, voice barely above a whisper. If they prepare for disasters that might never happen. Kral replayed maras.com voice in his head. The way she spoke of erasing his fleet like it was routine. What do you recommend? He asked. Shelter looked out into the stars. Saturn. To Dominion space, she said. Report that this region is unsuitable for conquest. And if the Council orders attacked anyway. Sella paused. Then we follow orders, she said. And we request more fleets. Many more. Kral's jaw tightened. How many ships would it take? Chella ran calculations. At least 10 times our force, she said. And even then, they may have more they did not show. Kroll felt cold. 10 times. Half the Dominion Navy. And if we attack with our current force? He asked. Sella did not hesitate. We lose, she said. Total fleet destruction. Kral turned away from the viewing port. For the first time, he murmured. I have met an enemy numbers cannot solve. Later. High Marshal Droven stood before the War Council in the Great Hall of the Dominion homeworld. Towering, forearms, heavy with authority. Scales deep blue with age. Kroll finished his report and stepped back. Silence sat like a weight. Then Droven spoke. You are telling this council, he said, that 200 warships retreated because humans erased one asteroid. Kroll kept his gaze forward. The tactical situation was untenable. We were surrounded. General Rockin laughed. Harsh, you retreated from prey. They cannot breathe without machines. Chella stepped forward. General, she said, may I present the tactical analysis? Holograms filled the room. Approached vectors, covered our escape routes blocked. Human ships positioned like a net. Admiral Vorkin leaned in. How long were they preparing? At least 3 years, Chella replied. Possibly longer. Droven's eyes narrowed. Showed a weapon. The asteroid erasure played again. The hull's arrogance weakened as the data stayed the same every time. Rokon spat a word. One weapon does not make them invincible. Droven raised a hand for silence. Krollvex, he said. Could our current fleet defeat them? Kroll hesitated. Then chose survival over pride. We would suffer catastrophic losses, he said. Possibly total destruction. Murmurs spread, offended. Chella activated a second display of human doctrine. Humans destroying bridges while still standing on them. Pilots ramming aircraft into targets. Infantry charging through bombardments that would vaporize Aetherian armor. They sacrifice routinely, Sella said. Not as desperation, as doctrine. Rokon snorted. Suicidal behavior is weakness. Sella changed the file. Ancient humans, holding a narrow pass against overwhelming numbers. They fought until every defender was dead, she said. Not to win. To prevent the enemy from winning. Droven leaned forward. Assessment of human psychology. He demanded. Sella met his gaze. They do not distinguish between acceptable losses and total losses, she said. They measure objectives, not survival. She added one number that froze the room. Population analysis indicates over 7 billion humans in one system. The council went silent. 7 billion. More than the Dominion's conquered systems combined. Potential warriors, someone whispered. Sella nodded. During existential threats, they mobilize everything. Droven's claws tapped his armrest. Then, we will bring overwhelming force, he said. A fleet of 1,000 ships. Kral's blood ran cold. He stepped forward despite protocol. High Marshal, he said, I respectfully request additional support. Droven's eyes hardened. Orders. Our orders. Later, the largest fleet in Dominion history. Departed. 1,000 ships. Over 1 million warriors. They traveled toward the human system like a storm. And Kral Vex, assigned to lead, felt like a prisoner walking to his own execution. Later, Admiral Mara Kim stood beneath Luna Base, surrounded by holographic displays. That incoming armada covered the tactical map like an infection, Captain Martinez reported. Heavy battleships, carriers, bombardment platforms. This is an extinction-level force. Mara didn't blink. Activate Protocol 7, she said. Martinez hesitated. Ma'am, it has never been used live. Mara's voice stayed steady, but her eyes carried the weight. This is why it exists. Across the solar system. Hidden installations, woke. Asteroids, shed camouflage like skin. Moons opened into weapon bays. Factories, buried inside rock, began producing war material at a rate that would have made peacetime councils faint. On Mars, General Thompson received the code. All units, he broadcast. This is not a drill. Protocol 7 is active. The planet changed. What looked like mining rigs became railgun turrets. Ice caps split to reveal launch arrays. In the belt, Station Gamma 7 unfolded into an antimatter foundry. On the Zephyrian flagship, Sella's voice shook. Admiral, she said, energy readings are spiking beyond our measurement ceiling. Civilian structures are showing military-grade signatures. Kroll stared at the tactical plot. Every planet was a fortress. Every moon, a gun. Every rock a liar intelligence. He whispered, said this system was peaceful. Sella's answer was quiet and deadly. Our intelligence was fed. Later incoming communication, his officer reported. Mara's image filled the screen. Behind her, a human command center moved like a machine. Purposeful, calm, ready. Admiral. Kroll Vex, Mara said. Welcome back. I see you brought more ships. Kroll forced confidence into his tone. Surrender, human, or face the full might of the Dominion. Mara's smile was thin. Before you decide, she said, I want you to see something. The display shifted. Hundreds of new human contacts appeared, then thousands. Ships rising from shadows. From orbits, from places no scout would think to search. You are outnumbered 3-1, Mara said. But that is not the important part. The display changed again. 10,000 targeting indicators locked onto Zephyrian hulls. Lasers, beams, guidance lines. An entire solar system pointing at them, Admiral, Mara said. You are targeted by over 10,000 weapon systems, each one capable of destroying a ship your size. Sella's whisper came through, almost prayer. Some signatures, EQ while stellar output. Mara nodded, as if she'd expected the observation. I offered you mercy once, she said. You returned with a larger fleet. Her voice turned to ice. This time there is no mercy. Kroll felt fear spreading through his fleet like fire through dry grass. Negotiate, he said, and hated himself for the word. No, Mara replied. There are no negotiations with slavers. She leaned forward. One final choice. Her voice lowered and became absolute. Surrender your entire fleet unconditionally, or be destroyed where you stand. Kroll stared at his 1,000 ships. Now, they looked like a herd inside a hunter's circle. Chella opened a private channel, voice breaking. Chair's not bluffing. Chair's throat tightened. If we surrender, he asked Mara, what guarantee do we have you will honor terms? Mara's expression softened a fraction. Humans honor agreements made in good faith, she said. Your crews will be treated according to rules of war. Food, medical care, communications, work, dignity. She gestured off-screen. We have facilities prepared, Crow realized, with a sick twist, that the humans had planned for his surrender. Before he arrived, they had written the ending and he had walked into it anyway. You have 60 seconds, Mara said. Surrender or die. On his bridge, commanders waited. Warriors who had children. Warriors who had mates. Warriors who had believed conquest was immortality. Chella stepped close. There is no shame, she said, in saving lives. Kroll thought of Droven, of the Council's arrogance, of his own pride. Then he made the only decision that kept a million hearts beating. Admiral Mara Kim, he said. Voice thick. The Zephyrian Dominion fleet surrenders. The words tasted like ash. Very good, Mara replied. Power down weapons. Prepare to receive boarding parties. Cooperation will be noted across 1,000 ships. Weapon systems went dark, and the galaxy changed later. The boarding did not feel like conquest. Human teams moved through corridors with sealed helmets and quiet hand signals. No shouting, no trophies. They cut power nodes. They locked armories. They guided crews to muster bays. When a Varkesh engineer panicked and reached for a sidearm, a human sergeant didn't shoot. He simply stepped closer. Palm up. Easy, the sergeant said. Hands where I can see them. Then he called for a medic. A human medic treated a bleeding Zephyrian without hesitation, sealing a torn throat to plate-like routine work. Kroll watched the feeds and felt something twist in his chest. Not relief, not pride. Respect. Within hours, 1 million warriors sat under guard and were still alive. Food arrived. Water arrived. Asterisk messages were recorded for families, then transmitted through neutral relays. Mara had promised law and she delivered it later in Dominion space. The news landed like a blade. High Marshal, Droven's council howled. Unconditional surrender. Impossible. Treason. But when sensor logs arrive in the erased asteroid, we played again and again, voices lowered. Because the data did not argue. Chella stood in that hall and spoke one sentence into the silence. They did not defeat us with rage. They defeated us with preparation. Then she added, and they spared us with discipline. Droven's eyes burned. Discipline is a mask. Maybe SELA said, or maybe it is a warning. They can end us, and they chose not to. That is control. Droven turned away, but the seed was planted, and seeds grew into decisions later. 6 months passed. Krail sat aboard the human prison ship Redemption, staring through reinforced glass at Earth blue-green. Peaceful, it looked harmless. It wasn't. The door chimed. Mara entered, carrying a small container that smelled sharp and bitter. Coffee. It had become a weekly routine, not interrogation, not punishment, conversation. How are you adjusting? Mara asked, sitting across from him. Krail folded his arms. Your prisons are cleaner than our barracks. Mara's mouth twitched. We try. Kraal gestured toward Earth. You could have destroyed us, he said. Twice he did not. Mara sipped coffee, considering. What would destroying your fleet accomplish? She asked. Victory. And then, Mara replied. Krail hesitated. Mara answered. For him's voice steady. Your council would send another fleet. Then another. Eventually we would have to destroy your civilization to make the threat stop. Kraal's eyes narrowed. That is what conquerors do. Mara set the container down. We are not conquerors, she said. We are defenders. She activated a small display, showing human history. Empires rising. Empires collapsing. Cities burned. Cities rebuilt. Millions dead under leaders who called conquest destiny. We learned, Mara said, that conquest creates more enemies and it eliminates. Krail watched the images. But he could rule this region, he said. Mara laughed. A sound without cruelty. Admiral, we can barely agree on dinner. She nodded toward the display, now showing colonies, research stations, trade routes. We want discovery. Conquest ruins that. Kraal's gaze sharpened. Then why build weapons that sterilize systems? Mara's expression turned serious. Because, she said, sometimes the only way to keep peace is to be ready for war. She stood and walked to the viewing port. When we first detected your dominion expanding, she said, we studied your methods. Krat's stomach tightened. Mara's voice carried a note of quiet sadness. We saw worlds stripped bare, she continued. Cultures erased, populations enslaved. She turned to face him. We decided it would not happen to us. Kraal was quiet for a long moment. What happens to my crews? He asked. They remain here until a treaty is signed, Mara replied. They will be treated well. They will work. They will speak to families and my empire. Mara activated a document. Terms of a non-aggression pact. Clear boundaries. Mutual respect. Enforcement clauses. We offer peace, she said. If your council accepts, and if they refuse. Mara's eyes hardened. Then we take more aggressive defensive measures, she said. Kraal stared at the treaty. It was fair. You would honor this? He asked. You would not expand into Dominion space. Mara nodded. We don't want your territory, she said. We want to be left alone. She paused. There is something else you should know. Krail looked up. The weapons you saw, Mara said, were a fraction. Kraal's blood cooled. What? Tell me. Mara's voice softened. Because your surrender saved lives, she said. And because your council must understand the choice. She looked out at her. They can accept peace, she said, or chase conquest until it becomes annihilation. Kraal joined her at the viewing port. Do you believe humans are superior? He asked. Mara considered carefully. Every species has strengths, she also said. Your people are disciplined, brilliant engineers, capable of greatness. She turned eyes sad, but your culture worships one idea. Kraal swallowed. Might. Mara nodded. That belief destroys civilizations, she said. In humans, we have that flaw too. Kraal frowned. The difference, Mara said, is that we learn to call it a flaw. An alert sounded. Mara checked her communicator. Admiral, Captain Martinez reported. Dominion High Command has responded. High Marshal Droven agrees to negotiate. He requests a formal meeting. Mara smiled, relief flickering for the first time. Prepare diplomatic facilities, she said, and informed Droven that Admiral Krolvex will attend as representative. After she left, Crow stayed at the glass, watching Earth turn dark in 6 months. He had learned more about humans than years of intelligence ever held. They were not prey, they were not conquerors, they were something far more unsettling, a species with the power to end you, and the discipline to choose not to. Later, Jalel visited his quarters with a datapad full of cultural analysis. I think I understand, she said. Kral looked up. Why the ancients warned. Chella nodded. It was not just their weapons, she said, it was their patience. She activated comparative charts of galactic civilizations. Most species expand until resistance, she said. Then retreat, or fight until one side breaks. Humans? Krall asked. Sella's voice dropped. Humans prepare for conflicts that may not happen for generations, she said. They plan for enemies they have not met. They build contingencies for scenarios others call impossible. Krall thought of Protocol 7, the way an entire solar system became a fortress overnight. You believe that makes them unbeatable? He asked. I believe it makes them impossible to defeat conventionally, Chella replied. Aggressors can be contained. Empires can be outlasted. She looked at him, eyes steady. But a species that combines overwhelming power with restraint and strategic patience. Chella let the silence do the work. That is something new. Krall exhaled. Slowly. What happens at the peace talks? He asked. Chella's answer was quiet, almost hopeful. I believe, she said. Humans will offer the Dominion something we never had. Krall waited a chance, Chella said, to evolve beyond conquest. Later, 2 weeks later, Kral stood beside Mara on the human diplomatic station. Beyond the glass, High Marshal Droven's ship docked. The future of both species balanced on a breath when Droven stepped onto the station. Crow watched the old conqueror's posture, still proud, still heavy with certainty. But his eyes kept flicking toward the windows, toward the silent, waiting ships, toward the hidden power he could no longer pretend did not exist. Grohl understood then. Humans had not just defended their home, they had rewritten the rules of the galaxy, and they had done it without firing a war to completion. We had taught him a truth no Dominion Council had ever spoken aloud. True power was not the ability to destroy your enemies. It was the wisdom to turn them into allies. And now, whether the Dominion liked it or not, the age of easy conquest was over. The human region would not be taken, it would be respected. Or it would be the last region anyone ever tried to conquer.